Good morning and welcome. My name is Michele and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stamping Up. Now, earlier this week, I asked a question on my page about what do you prefer? Do you prefer daubers or the blending brushes? Now, everybody said that they prefer the blending brushes, and I think there is a place also for the daubers. But one person had put to me that they find that they can't use the blending brushes as well as what they would like. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I've got all the answers, but I'm going to show you the way I use the brushes the best way that I can. And I think you will find that most people will tell you that they're not perfect at it. Okay, most of us do have to practice a lot before we get it right. Most of us do make mistakes, or what we sometimes consider making mistakes. It's just whether you um, think of it as a mistake or whether you think of it as a handmade card. And that's the beauty of handmade cards. They do have little imperfections that's not perfect, but that's just because you've made it and you've made it yourself. So never be afraid of getting in and trying something new if it's something new and you haven't done it before. So I'm going to turn my camera down so you can see my desk. I've got something here put together. I've done a little bit of embossing, and I've got a little project that I'd like to work on, and I thought this was just a great time just to jump on very quickly and show you how I use my blending brushes. So let me just bring this up. Might be one moment. Okay, there's my desk. So let's hope. Let me just turn my camera a little bit so you're more onto my desk. There we go. Okay then. So please jump on, say hi. It's always great to see people on here, particularly if you're new, haven't been on here before. But I just want to talk a little bit about the blending brushes that we have in our catalogue. Now, we do have two sizes. We have a small and we have a large one. Now, depending on the amount of area or the amount of detail that I'm doing, to which one I'll use. If I've got something that's small areas with lots of details, I will tend to go to my small blending brush. If I'm doing a large area like I'm going to be doing today, I will go to my larger blending brush. Now, just also remember, these blending brushes were originally designed when they very first came out. They were makeup brushes, so they're very, very soft, and there are lots and lots of little fine bristles. Now, there are some stampers out there that will have one blending brush per color. There are some that will have one blending brush for pinks, one blending brush for greens, one blending brush for blues, reds, and etc. etc. Myself personally, I have just got about, I don't know, 8 to 10 blending brushes in various sizes. I've even got a few that I purchased before Stamping Up were carrying them, which were purchased from the makeup section. Now, I wash my brushes. Not everybody likes to wash their brushes. I wash my brushes. As you can see, this one's had blue. I've used it with blues and yellows. It will stain, but that's washed, and I wash them until the colour runs out of them, because the colour does hold in those bristles for quite a while. So I just use soap and water and give them a really good scrub. I actually use my fingernails because they're fairly long, and I use them just to get my fingernails into those bristles, and just rub it with a bit of water and sometimes a little bit of detergent as well, and just until they run clean, and then just rough dry them on a piece of paper towel, and then leave them sitting for a day or so, and they dry fairly quickly. So that's what I do. It's really up to you. As I said before, there's no right and wrong. Now, I'm going to be using these two brushes today. I've just stamped on here. I'll show you the stamp that I've used, because it's just something I had on my desk. But I've used this particular image here from the Joy of Noel. And I've stamped that twice on a piece of basic white cardstock. I always like to start with my lightest colour first, and then blending out particularly if you've only got one brush. So this one here is a dirty brush. As you can see, there's quite a bit of ink on there. There doesn't seem to be anything coming out. So I could use that brush because I'm using 2 tones of blue. So if I start from my light and then go to my dark afterwards, I could use the same brush for both. One of the things you have to remember when using your blending brush, you don't always see the amount of ink that you've put on your brush directly. So you've not, most times you might have more ink on there than what you think. So if your brush is still whitish and you've already put ink on there, don't worry. There's probably quite a bit of ink in there. It just doesn't always show up. The darker your ink, the more colouring you're going to have on here. I can't remember what I used on here. Possibly was the Misty Moonlight, which I've got out at the moment. So it is actually quite dark. Now, a little bit of ink goes a long way, and you're better off with anything, whether you're using a door bar or whether you're using a blending brush, to start off light. And because you can always build colour up, whereas you can't take colour away. Okay, so just start off light, start with a very light hand, don't use a lot of pressure. Now, a blending brush is narrow here at the base of the actual brush area, and there is a lot of flexibility in that, okay, as you can see. So I would never, I'm just going to move this out of the road for the moment, I would never hold my brush here and go like that, because you are going to, you are going to put a lot more pressure than you think on there. I like to have control of my head. So when I hold my brush, okay, I hold my brush in the palm of my hand, and these 2 fingers here are going to grab the head of my brush. And that just allows me to use a very soft motion or give it a little bit more pressure. If I'm just relying on holding it down here, you're going to be you've got no control over your pressure on that head. Okay, so that's the way I like to use my brush. It's more like that rather than that. So I'm going to start with, as I said before, my light color, and I'm going to actually start with a relatively clean brush, just to show you that when I put the ink on, how I put it on and how little it actually shows on the bristles itself. So I always take my brush, as I said, holding the head with those 2 fingers, and I go in a circular motion on my stamp pad. Okay, I don't tap, I go in a circular motion. Now, there is a blob of ink on there at the moment, and that's probably just because when I first went down, I might have gone down onto an inky spot. When I start working on this now, I'm going to put colour on this part of my card here. I don't want colour here, so I'm actually going to turn this around because I want to work my colour going that way. I'm going to start on the off my page, okay, and that's going to get rid of that little blob to a point. Now, there doesn't look like there's a lot of ink on there, but there's quite a bit on here. So now I'm going to start off my page in a circular motion, and I'm going to start working on. Okay, it is going on there, and it's going on very, very light. So I'm going to add a bit more ink to my brush, again, just working in a circular motion, bringing my colour off my page and bringing it on. Now, you are going to get little areas where the colour could be stronger. I don't know whether you can see, but I've got a little bit of a mark there where my colour is a little bit stronger. That's okay. As I keep working this, and because this is my lighter colour, I am going to cover some of that up. So I'm just going to keep working this in a circular motion and just coming back and adding a little bit more ink at a time, because as I said before, you can add more ink, but you can't remove it. So I'm doing like an resist emboss technique here, where I've already embossed my image, and all I'm doing is just going over it again in a circular motion, and I'm keeping it fairly light. Again, just coming off my page and on, and just keeping it light. Now, a lot of this is practice, okay? So if you're not sure, just get some scrap basic white cardstock and just practice and just keep practicing. And it's the same with anything, whether you're using, the blender pens or whether you're using any other technique. A lot of this is practice. It's practice. Well, I'm not going to say practice makes perfect, because I don't think any of us really can get things 100% perfect. We can just work in getting things, a bit better than what we did before. But practicing will give you more confidence in what you're doing. Hi, Marty. Hi, Glenda. Hi, Lorraine. How are you? So I'm not actually going to go through and complete this card today. All I just really wanted to do was just show you how I use my blending brushes. So I'm just going to keep working that around, just going in a circular motion. Now I want to add a little bit of darker color to this now, so I'm going to bring in my Misty Moonlight, and I am going to use the other brush on this one. So again, I just want to turn that around because I want to work that way. And you can even just tap off if you think you got too much ink on there. Just tap it off on your scratch paper on the side. But start from off your page and then work on. So here I just want to add a little bit more of the Misty Moonlight. So I've done boho blue first, and now I'm just wanting to add a little bit of Misty Moonlight just in there, not going in as far as I've done the other, just all around those edges. Now, if you do get a little bit of a blob of color on there somewhere, just keep working. Just keep working the your color in until you've blended it in a little bit more. Hi, Anne, how are you? So just keep working it. As I said, look, it is just all practice on how to use it. But I really think the biggest part is controlling this brush head. So as I said before, I always have the handle in the palm of my hand and those two fingers holding that brush head, because it just allows you. I must have got a little bit of a fleck there that's okay, when I was embossing. Now I'm going to come back in with my lighter color and just bring a little bit more of that lighter color in that boho blue. So I'm just going to use this and just take a bit of that color off and then just keep blending those two colors. So coming back and even going over the whole lot again will just help blending those two colors in. And you keep just building your color up until you're happy with it. Okay, so I hope that has helped you a little bit on how to use your blending brushes. As I said before, I don't think there is any real right and wrong way. This is just the way I find it helps me. And I think the most important thing is having control. Don't be afraid of them. Practice. And don't see little imperfections as being not right or wrong. It just means it is a handmade card. And sometimes with the imperfections, you can cover them up, whether you cover them up with a sentiment, whether you cover it up with an embellishment. It's how you want to treat it and how you want to think of it. So as I said, my top tip for this one is to hold your brush in the palm of your hand with your thumb and your first finger here, holding that, and that's where you're going to get control over your brush. Don't hold it down here and expect you're going to get control there, because the only control you're going to have is a very heavy-handed control. Okay, so that's just my little quick video for today. I hope that has inspired you. I hope that has helped you. If you are a little bit worried and concerned about using your blending brushes, just have a play, practice. I'm now going to go back and do some more sewing, so then I can have some very happy customers. And I'm going to come back and finish this card later on. So take care. Have a lovely day. Thank you, Marty, Glenda, and Lorraine, and Anne for joining me. It's wonderful to see you all here this morning. Okay, bye for now.